If you want to start publishing content that sets you apart as an authority in your field, but you don't know where to start, you're going to want to listen to today's show. Well, welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. If you want to learn how to grow your business using your blog, newsletters, books, and more, hey, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements, and our guest for today's episode is Dennis Meador. As CEO of DM Media, Dennis has helped law firms and entrepreneurs leverage storytelling and strategic content to attract their ideal clients and achieve sustainable growth. So, Dennis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed your show, listened to your show, and now here I am. So you never know where life takes you.
That's right. You've reached the big time now.
Yes, it's big. It's big.
So before we dive into, content creation, which is what we're all about here, I actually wanted to take a step back and dig into your career and life so far, because it's kind of interesting. I read on your website that you started your first company at 14 years old, and you've basically been an entrepreneur the majority of your life. And so I'm really curious to know a little bit about your story, and specifically, like, what was it about entrepreneurship that really drew you in?
Well, I come from a socioeconomic background that was definitely a struggle. And so at a young age, I kind of had to figure out how to make things happen. 8, 9 years old. And, even living with my mom, and then I moved in with my dad when I was 13, and he basically put us in like a private school with the kids, with all the families with all money. And then my stepmom would go and watch kids in the morning so we could go to this school. So I had to learn, like, my parents basically were like, listen, you're alive. You've got clothes on your back. I don't care if they're from a missionary closet at the church. You got food in your belly. I don't care if you were still hungry when you got away from the table. You're not dying. You're not starving. And so if you want more than that, you're going to have to figure it out. So that's kind of how I figured it out, is that's what made me an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur before I even knew what that word was. So, my first thing that I did, my first company, and I say company, I wasn't incorporated or anything. My first incorporation or LLC was at 18 or 19 years old. So, but at 14, another kid that I had that I knew that was kind of in the same situation as me. We were around rich people. We didn't have much money, but we tried to do what we could to fit in. And he told me, hey, man, like, I lived in Iowa, and it snowed a lot in the winter. Doesn't as much anymore, for, you can say whatever reason you want. But he said, man, I made like $100 yesterday just shoveling snow. So I got my brother, my stepbrother, he's about a year and a half, 2 years younger than me, if I remember correctly, and his best friend. And I was like, guys, like, with the three of us, we can go, we can shovel walks, we can make like $75, $100 each. Like, we can really do something with this. And they're like, okay. So initially what we started doing is we started like knock a door, and then knock a door, and we would change each one and take turns. And we had done like 2 of them, and we'd been out like 4 or 5 hours, and we hadn't made much money. I think, 10, 15 bucks a piece, something like that. And I had gotten both jobs. And so we came up to the next one, and they were like, I don't want to knock on the door, because they just felt like defeated. I'm like 14, they're like 12. And I was like, well, I tell you what, I'll go and knock. And then, so I go up, I knock on the door, and the lady's like, sure. She goes, here's $20. She hands me 10 and 2.5. And she says, just, shovel this area, and then you'll be done. So I go down, and I hand my brother $5. I hand my brother's best friend $5. And I said, I got a great idea, guys. Here's what we're going to do. You guys stay here and shovel this job. I'm going to keep knocking doors. So by the time you're done, there'll be another job for you to do. And they were like, oh, that's cool. So that's what we did. As I started doing that, then what I did is I made those people my customers. I went back, and every time knocked on the door. Hey, can we shovel your walk? Yeah. Good to, oh, hey, Dennis, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, cool. So I got all this, started making this money. And then came springtime. I'm like, what do I do? And I was like, oh, what about mowing lawns? Then I started getting lawn mowing jobs, and my brother's friends and my brother, and they're all mowing lawns. And then fall comes. Oh, what do we do now? Well, then I got recruited for a paper route. So I took this paper route and that paper route and that, and I took all the paper routes within walking distance, and I resold them to all the kids. I did all the collections, and that's what I did just year round, is essentially just became the middleman And that's how I was like, I'm making more money than these guys, and I'm not doing any work. I'm just going door to door, talking to people, and they hand me money for it. So that's kind of how I got into entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, you're absolutely right, but there's so many people that don't want to go talk to people. I mean, so that's the value, right?
Exactly.
So you've kind of eventually parlayed this, lawn care slash snow removal service into a whole lot of other businesses over time. And your latest one is quite different. It's called the Legal Podcast Network, and it looks like it just started. You're just kind of getting it off the ground. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what is that? What's the idea behind it?
So I was in a partnership with another guy. I've typically had partnerships. None of them have ended well. It's always been, and I always tell them in the beginning, hey, I'm going to make way more money than you, but you're going to make way more money than you're making now. Sales process development, product development has always kind of been my specialty. Well, I went to my former partner, and said, "Hey, we should start a podcast network. I'm hearing a lot of attorneys asking us if we do podcasting, and whenever we tag in podcasting for the product that we have, which is an SEO based program, it sold better." And he was just like, "Oh, let's just start a answering service. I think that'll do better." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So we were up to renegotiate my contract. I had taken the company from 70 something clients, and in like 4 years, we were like 300 and something odd clients, less than a million to we're doing like 5 million now. And time to renegotiate my contract. And he knows I'm due, for some good money. Although I was happy with the money I was making, but looking at the books, definitely was time for more. He used the old buyout and bought me out for pennies on the dollar of what I could have gotten. And I'm one of those people, like, I keep a book of business ideas. And I like tell my partner, if today I lost everything, give me an internet connection and a laptop. By Monday, I have a new business. By that Friday, I've got money in the bank. Like, I just have always had that kind of mentality of like, I'm never gonna like. I'll have people say, "Oh, don't tell people your idea; they're gonna steal it." I'm like, I got 100 other ideas. Like, I don't care if they steal my idea. Like, it didn't really bother me. So he did that. I launched this business. We went May 1st into like what I would say full. We were like kind of in beta from like December to the beginning of May because I was getting married. And so we had all the marriage preparation and getting the people out to our island where we live, all that kind of stuff. So then we start the business and it just takes off. Like, I started with me, and then like all of a sudden all these people that had worked for me with my old partner like left him because I had signed like I won't recruit them, whatever. But like I said, I put in there like if they leave you and come to me, that's all bets are off. So like I had like a team of people that are offshore that like basically just came and said, "Hey, we just all left him and we want to work for you." And then I had another person, which is our content director, like come over and be like, "Hey, I want to work for you." And so now we've got like 30 something people. We're a little over 100 clients. And, we don't really have to. Typically, I've made my money cold calling, and we've just been marketing, kind of putting ourselves in front of people. And it keeps us all super busy to the point where I can't hire sales staff because we're growing so fast. We're having to create and recreate systems. So we've actually had to bring in a person that helps with like production systems to help us refine that. Because although I can do that, it's kind of like anything else, right? Like business owners, like the first step to success is delegation. And so like I tried to get into it a little bit, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, let me just find somebody who really knows this, who's done it a ton of times. They can come in, do it right the first time because I can't learn on this job. I always tell people if this business fails, no one's going to say, well, he had a bad content director. But I'll just be like, they'll be like, he's the one who messed it up. That my name's the ones that messed it up. So I take ownership with it. So if that means just doing what I do and staying in my lane, I'm okay with that. I'll be the face. I'll be, we'll do founder led marketing. I'll sell when I need to make sure we hit our numbers and oversee everything and train the leaders and do the stuff that I feel like are my core strengths.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm, just even that little snippet is enough to let me know like you're growing like gangbusters. You're seeing a lot of client growth clearly because you've got like 30 employees now from, zero a year ago. And I kind of wanted to dig into that because I have some preconceptions, some preconceived ideas about lawyers that may or may not be true. One of them is that I would imagine that most lawyers are extremely busy, have packed schedules, And then you're coming to them and saying, you need to start a podcast. And I'm sure their first question or their first objection is, I don't have time. So how are you streamlining that process for them? Like, how are you solving that problem?
Absolutely. So we call this turnkey podcasting for them. So that way, right up front, they know that, there's minimal amount of time. And that's probably one of our biggest selling points. And really, as we expand into other professional arenas, I think that will continue to be our biggest selling point is time. Time plus the amount of quality that we bring. And we can talk about that in a minute. But what we do is, first of all, stacking. That's hugely important. So stacking, what you do. So if I shoot a podcast, I'm also going to now have content, FAQ content for their website. I'm also going to have shorts. I'm going to have reels. I'm going to have, I could take and create like what we call quick question editions, where it's just like 2-3 minutes. It's just one question, one answer. When they onboard, what we do is we get their brand. If they don't have a brand in place, then we kind of give some suggestions. So we look at their brand profile, their client profile, and then their jurisdictional profile. And with their branding profile, with their client profile, what we do is we're just like, listen, if you could only have one archetype of a client, who would that be? And, some of our clients, they already have it. Like they hire us and they're like, oh, I only work with companies who import through the FDA. That's one of our shows. FDA import show. Like so exciting, right? But for some people, like that's a lifeblood thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have one divorce attorney. She's not a divorce attorney. She's a divorce attorney for high net worth individuals in this certain market who are having custody issues. Now, talk about very specific, but she's the go-to for that. And so we hone in on that. And then I have a content director who has been doing content with attorneys now for over 10 years. She did SEO content, she did book content, and now she's doing this content. And so what she does is she comes up with a content plan that each episode is about 7 to 10 questions that their client profile archetype would ask. So for example, if I'm talking about a high net worth individual in divorce, one of the questions might be, what happens to a second home during a divorce? Because, that's an indicator of high net worth. That's also a question that someone in that position might have. And so if we can answer these questions, so then what we do is we send them the questions at least a week ahead of the show. We do what we call guardrails with collaborative opportunities. So we say, we're doing it this way, but if you want something different, just tell us and we'll accommodate it. So they can be like, oh, you know what? If you ask this question, then you need to ask this question too in our state. Okay, great. Let's add that question on. How do we want to tweak this? And then we do this. We go into it. Each show takes about a half hour of time. It's about 17 to 21 minutes. And we take a little break. And we book them. They have to do at least an hour, so 2 shows. Or they could do up to a 2-hour block. So, or 2 shows or 4 shows. Then what we do is we do 1 show a month is one package, 2 shows a month is a second package, and weekly or 4 shows a month is the third package. And so we just get them in. They've got the questions. It's kind of, we're just softballing them. And then they answer questions right in their realm, right in what they do every day. And I just tell them, I'm like, listen, all I'm trying to do is take who you are offline and the things you say and the questions you answer all the time and do it one time so that we can now reach your client base much quicker and in a way that really they want to receive it now. People don't, especially since the pandemic, they're like, why do I have to drive to your office and sit in there for an hour and talk to you? Why can't you just hop on Zoom? I'll just put you on my phone. Like, that's people's mind frame, and attorneys have accepted that. So we are in the background doing everything, disseminating the shorts and reels and clips through all their social medias. We build their social media. We build their YouTube pages. We use the management tools. We use Opus Clip Pro. We use all these different things. And I always like the way we do it is like AI or some sort of program, then humanize, then after humanize, it goes to QA. Then after QA, it goes to client. And then once client approves, it goes out. And then if the client doesn't approve, then it goes back and it goes through the cycle again. AI, eyes, QA, client.
So I really like that. I like the layers of protection you got in there because, to your point, like I don't know. I don't know if people are still doing this or not, but like, gosh, just don't just let AI just do the thing and then post it. Like, it has to go through
Oh, they do.
edits and
I
review.
mean, all you have to do is just watch your feeds, and it's like their own name's misspelled, and I'm like, dude, it's your own name, and you didn't catch that. And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, just get it out, get it out, get it out, and it's like you're telling people you're worth $450 an hour, and you don't even take time to check that. You think that they are going to have confidence in you checking their contracts or their, you know, their injury situation or whatever is, the attorney does. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. You got to have eyes on stuff.
And I'm glad you said that because so I'm actually in my day job. I'm an editor and a writer. So like I'm constantly preaching the same thing. Like, look, if you've got no one's gonna like necessarily not buy from you if there's a typo in your webpage, but if there's every one of those that's in there is a little landmine that's just going off. Less credibility, especially if you're going after the high end. I mean, go look at Apple's website. It's perfectly clean because they want to sell you a $2,000 computer.
Yep.
So
I call that in my company, I call it cobwebs in the corner. And I use the illustration of like, if you've been to like doctor's offices, right? Like sometimes you go to like a new doctor and it's like an older doctor who's like had his office, or like chiropractor, especially chiropractors can be pretty guilty of this. They tend to be young guys who are sharp and have it all together, or guys who've been doing it 30 years. And you go in and you're like, okay, I'm going to trust this person with my health in whatever way. And then like you look underneath and there's like a Kleenex like on the floor underneath the chair. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And then you look up in the corner and you can see like a cobweb in the corner. And then like you walk down the hall and there's like scuff marks on the side of the wall, and like every little thing builds up to build that sense of distrust. And most people don't even know. They walk away and they're just like, I don't think I want to go back there. The Gen Z calls it the icks, right? So they're like, oh, this gives me the icks. And it's like this series of small things that just erodes confidence away from you. That not it's not one thing that caused it. It's the conglomeration of all of them together.
yeah, exactly. I'm trying with you 100%. And I want to actually talk a little bit about that. So it's not just that phenomenon, although that's a part of it. But let's say you've cleaned up your act and you've got at least grammatically correct content, on your blog or whatever. But one thing you mentioned on your website is that if it's run of the mill or generic, it's still not going to get what you want. So I was curious
Mhm.
from your perspective, like, are there any specific tips or just even generalities? Like, how do you help someone take their run of the mill generic content and make it stand out to give them that authority?
I think it's really about, and I mentioned this before, knowing your client, and not just like, oh, I'll help everybody. Anybody who says that isn't helping anybody. And that it's just such a sign of desperation when they're just like, I'll just take anything. But people that can identify who their client is, because once I identify who that client is, I can research, I can find out their fears, I can find out, things that aren't clear to them. I can look at like what searches those type of, there's so much data out there. So then you can build your content around the questions and the issues that they have, so that those people who fit your archetype feel as if you've crafted and you are a specialist. It's like, why do we pay so much for a heart specialist? If the heart specialist, if we walked in and he's like, oh, you're here for a heart, or you need something with your ears, or how's your toe feeling? We could do that while we're at it. You'd be like, whoa, dude, I came here because you're supposed to be a heart specialist. And yet you have all these other professions that just do that. And like most attorneys' websites, when you go to their website, it's just like, I do personal injury. I've done it 20 years. You should call me because I'm really good at it. And it's like, it's all about you. And crafting content is about answering the fears, the questions, and it depends on what you do, or creating a story for the people who you want to attract. And so you have to work backwards. Most people work their content from inward out instead of looking at what they're trying to do and then bringing that content from back to them. And so that's been, to me, one of the things that I've tried to convey to my team as we're trying to teach these attorneys how to really speak to these people. And then obviously we have people in place that know how to do that as well to kind of help them along with that.
Yeah, and if you it's for those listening, if you want an example of that, I'll have links in the show notes. But go check out Dennis's webpage. Check out his about section, because so many about sections on the internet are like you said, it's about me and look at me and I've done this and I've done that and no and like no one cares. Like it's kind of a harsh truth.
Yeah.
But what you've done and what I've tried to do on my website is make it about me. Even make the about me about you and about how I'm going to solve your problem and how you're going to be so much better off. So if you want to see a smooth way to do that, go check out his website. Again, links will be in the description. And then kind of along with that, so you guys are focusing on helping these attorneys set up podcasts and all of the associated things. Well, and our show is really like my show is really tries to focus in on the written content element. So I'm curious about the tie-ins between like a podcast and social media or blogs. Like, do you help your clients with any of that, newsletters, anything like that as well?
We don't do newsletters. We do content for the site, so pretty much like FAQ stuff. But
Mhm.
so what it allows us to do is each episode is about 7 to 10 questions. It'll create anywhere from 2 to 3 pages of content, and so we use the transcript, and then we AI edit it through AI. Then Tracy, who is our content director, goes in and cleans it up, makes it human. We have like a list of words that I don't allow, like for example, demystify. That is not allowed in any of our content because no one used that word until ChatGPT a year ago. Now all of a sudden people are demystifying everything and they're delving into things that I like.
Yep.
Yeah, delving and demystifying and just things like that. So I'm like, no, guys, like let's pay attention to these words that we're seeing everywhere that are just dead giveaways, and let's just use real words that people use every day. Um, but we take and from each show, we create a YouTube show that we put it on every podcast channel that we can through Podbean. There's something like 25 channels total that we put the show on, including uh including YouTube and like some video stuff. And then we take the transcript, we edit it into FAQ, we will place it on their website or send it to their webmaster. We don't do the SEO for it. I mean, we can, but like, cause that's our background, but I'm just like, listen, like it's just a whole like quagmire more work that we'd have to double, triple our rates. So no, if they have SEO people, great. Because custom content on a continual basis that keeps people on the page will always kill it in the algorithm. That is my summation of spending 20 years in the algorithm. From 2003 till now, so 22 years, I've been doing SEO, PPC, social media marketing. My whole career has been media. And so, from the time I was 19. And so we create social media if they don't have social media accounts, and then we create shorts and reels. We use Opus Clip Pro. That'll give you usually about 12 to 15 decent ones. We go in, we make sure that like the B-roll isn't like people in like Muslim countries, nothing against that, but like an American eye would look at that and be like, this doesn't quite fit for me, like the typical American eye. And so, and then so we're creating FAQ content. We're also then creating quick question editions of the podcast, which is just one of those 7 to 10 questions. And then we can put that on their website so they can have an FAQ video page. And then also like YouTube does so well, we make sure we have our tags right and our back end stuff in studio. So YouTube can like kind of backdoor people to the front of the algorithm much quicker than content. Not that content's bad, it just takes longer. And so yeah, we're creating video, we're creating social, we're posting on all the social outlets. We're getting ready to launch our 2.0 version, which is we started off with 3 pieces of content per episode. We're going to be at 20 pieces of content per episode with our 2.0, where if you're in our entry level package, every business day you have a post. If you're in what we call our kind of like main package that I want people to see, and you're going to have 2 posts 7 days a week. And then if you're in our weekly show where you're going to have 3 posts every day, which is kind of the algorithm loves people that give you 3 posts a day. So
Nice. So yeah, man, it's amazing what you do with systems and automation. That's unbelievable. So I want to switch gears a little bit because I do want to get to know you a little bit better as a person, because you're not just a worker bee. You are a human being who has value. So I'm going to assume that at least some portion of your day you're not working. Let's just assume you
Mhm.
have good boundaries in place and you're able to take that break. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I like to snorkel. I mentioned to you before the thing, we live on an island off of Belize. Great internet here. Great. I mean, I essentially had to isolate myself so I could focus on my business. Not necessarily just for that reason. I mean, there's benefits to living on an island in a tourist area, but love that. Spending time with my wife for sure. I do have 3 children as well. Do a lot of texting and back and forth with them, and then my sister, who I'm closest with, is I'm the oldest of 6 kids, but it's his, hers, and theirs. And so like the his, me and my sister, we've been together like basically our whole life. And then about almost 7 or 8 years ago, might be a little bit more now. Her her husband died in a work accident, and her sons were 6, 4, and she was pregnant. And so I went up. I lived in Austin. I would drive up to Tulsa for like a weekend, and then a week, and then the next weekend, and be there like 10 days a month. And I became what the family and what we have monikered Uncle Awesome to these boys, because I said to myself, I don't want them to feel like they grew up without a father figure. She's remarried now and had a great guy. So thankful for that. But my nephews just love them to death. I'll spend time on FaceTime with them. They text me. One of them likes to create music. He sends me his music, and so just all that kind of stuff. Try to just spend time with the people I love. And as much as they'll let me, whether it's just through FaceTime, whether it's through going and visiting them, whether it's through just texting, whatever their digital language is, I'm going to speak that with them. And so that's me. That's what I like to do.
Yeah. No, I love the heart behind that of stepping in to be kind of that father figure when those kids needed it. Man, that's a really cool thing, man. That's pretty cool.
Well, I try to live life in the sense that I hope if I'm in a situation, someone would extend kindness to me. So I'm just like, I'll be the one to extend kindness to them.
Yeah, I
You
love
know,
it. I love it. Speaking of that, so that's a great like little bit of wisdom. And one thing I like to ask all my guests as we sort of begin to wrap up is, what is a piece of wisdom or a life lesson you've learned in your own journey that you could tell other people to help them become better?
honestly, I think it's just the concept of belief in self. Um, I think so many people. One of the things that I enjoy is mentoring and seeing people grow, and like even within my company, and I hope this doesn't sound self-serving, but I've been told a few times, like, dude, you freaking saved my life. Like, I was here, I was depressed, I wasn't going anywhere, and then you believed in me, and you told me you believed in me, and then you taught me, and then now I'm making this money, and my life is improving, and it's a positive atmosphere and things like that. I spend so much time listening to people just talk about how they can't, or they don't deserve it, or they don't, and I'm just like, why not? Like, why? Like, to me, I've always had this philosophy. Show me one person on the planet that could do it, and I could do it. Give me one reason why it should be done, and I can do it. I don't care about the 99 reasons why it'll fail. Give me one reason why it'll be successful, or it could be successful, and I will zero in on that thing, and the other things just disappear. And more often than not, I do get the chance to see some sort of success, or at the very least, a great lesson learned out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, isn't it amazing what just kindness and the positive attitude can do? Just amazing.
Yeah, I wish that for more people. I always
Yeah,
know when I'm getting in a bad mood, because it's like I go from this like love to everybody to just this like you, and my wife's like, "We need to go home, honey," and I'm like, "Maybe we should go home," and she's just like, "Okay, let's get home,"
yeah,
So I, I I know that when it's coming, and know thyself, So definitely try to be that person that knows
yeah,
thyself.
yeah, man, that's great. I appreciate you spreading more again kindness and respect on the world. I try to as well. I try to be that guy also. Man, we need some more of us. So anyone listening out there, and you're feeling that, step up because we could use you on our team. So
Yeah.
Dennis, it's been a pleasure. Last question: where can people go to learn more about you?
If you're wanting to connect, just look in the notes, look up my name. I think I have like Dennis R. Meador Jr., but it might be just Dennis Meador on LinkedIn if that's what you prefer. Definitely open to it. Hey, I listened to you on this podcast. Would love to connect with you. Not a problem. If you want to learn more about my company, it's the legal like the Ohio State University, right? So it's the legal podcast network.com. And so that's where you can find out about my company, find out about what we're doing. I really want to entrench in this legal area, but probably sometime in the next year or so, we'll start expanding out to other professions. I'm doing some research because I know attorneys really well. I've been selling them for 22 years. I sell 1 to 10s. I don't sell bigger ones. I love seeing them go from like just a guy in an office to like, 3 partners, 2 associates, 12 people doing several million, and knowing that I at least had a little bit of a part of that by helping them with marketing and growing and things like that. So, but yeah, if you want to check out, we are open to working with other people. I certainly have the experience, worked with dentists, I've had agencies. I've done a little bit of everything. My last company that I had for about 6 or 7 years, I called Kitchen Sink Inc. because we did everything but the kitchen sink. I did branding. I built websites, WordPress. I'd just sit down at a booth and knock one out in 5-6 hours. So I've done all that. I don't do the work now. I mostly oversee it, make sure it's done right. But I'm very confident in my team that we can help you no matter what you do.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, anyone out there listening, if you want that done for you service for a podcast and all the social media you could ever want, yeah, we'll have them in the show notes. Just click on the link. I'll take you right to it. Again, thanks, Dennis. And to all my listeners, if you have enjoyed our discussion today, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. I go out and I find the best people I can possibly find, just like Dennis. We pick their brains, we grab that value from them, and then we give it to you for free. So that's a pretty good deal. And with that, hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.